Have you ever wondered how spirituality can transform addiction recovery into a life of purpose? Welcome back to the Path to Purpose podcast with Dr. Katja Rusanen. In today's episode, we are exploring the powerful connection between spirituality, addiction, and recovery, offering insights to help you live your purpose. I'm thrilled to introduce our guest and dear friend, Susan Chance, an author and advocate for addiction recovery with a master's degree in spiritual psychology. Susan's inspiring journey from the depths of addiction to embracing spirituality beautifully illustrates the transformative power of integrating spiritual principles into the healing process. In this episode, we'll dive deep into spirituality in recovery, whether you are navigating yourself of the recovery journey or supporting a loved one through their journey. This conversation will provide clarity, inspiration, and practical guidance. So stay tuned. Welcome, Susan. I'm super excited to have you here.
Thank you, Katja. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited, honored, and so good to see you. We've worked together on a lot of projects, and this one came to fruition, and I'm here to fully step into it.
Beautiful. And let me just ask, was there a special event that led you to this path?
Yes. 13 years ago, I developed a multiple drug addiction. I'd always had addictive tendencies, but never got lost in it before. But this time I did. I fell into the depths of it to the point where that's all I lived for. And I lost my home, my marriage, my career, my family, my community, my friends. It took a couple of years to do that, but they were gone. I just blew up and devastated my life with my addictions, and that's what started my path to recovery. And it's been an amazing journey. And actually, I feel so quite blessed to have had that happen to me, as difficult and as devastating as it was, because it led me to new beginnings and a better life. And best thing that ever happened to me, to be honest with you.
Wow, that is a shift of how you see your path. And what would you say has been the biggest lesson you learned through this recovery journey?
I'd have to say the biggest lesson is there is no such thing as a perfect recovery or a perfect program, that it's a lifetime experience and it's a process. That for me anyway, there were setbacks, there were relapses, there were difficult conversations, there were friendships that blew up, confusion, overwhelming, all that happened in recovery. But the biggest lesson is for me just staying present for myself and continuing to learn, continuing to trust the process and taking it one step at a time, one breath at a time, that with the dedication and hard work that one can give to it, you'll get back 10 times fold. So it's not an easy path, but it's the most rewarding path that I can think of anyone can do for themselves, whether it's in recovery or not. So just keep at it. It's not a perfect path, but it will unfold in a way that will be, right for you.
So let's talk more about that recovery and start with the definitions so that we all are on the same page. So what does recovery mean?
Well, recovery means, in my definition, is one staying, once you stop the drug, alcohol, self-harming behavior, find a place to steady yourself so you can be grounded and solid and held safe while you start to gain momentum in the process. Recovery means dealing with the havoc that your addiction or issue might have caused in your life and the life of others. Recovery means healing, not only physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. There's a huge healing process that continues. For me, the most important aspect of recovery is the growth that can happen with it. So it's a multidimensional process. So it's staying safe, staying grounded, heal the past, giving yourself time to take a look at the issues or concerns that might have developed that enabled you to reach for the addictive substance or concerns, and growing from it, growing from what you're learning and understanding and providing for yourself.
Yeah, I think the learning and awareness is always the key for us as we move forward. And there are so many people who struggle with addiction.
Mm.
So, in your opinion, why do you think it's so like that? It is such a big struggle for so many.
Well, for us, our culture, our society is so grounded in external, reaching for the external. We learn at a really young age that, if you're upset or angry, you reach for food. If you're not happy, don't think you're acceptable, you reach for a better body, you reach for new clothes, you reach for a new haircut, you reach for that new job that you think will give you meaning and purpose, you reach for the boyfriend that's going to fill the emptiness, you reach for there's so many things that we are taught and we learn at a young age that the answer is outside of ourselves, when it's the exact opposite. The answer is within ourselves. We're not taught that. It's not really part of our culture. It's a rewiring and a relearning of where the goods are, so to say. So because of that, so many of us reach for things outside of ourselves to pacify ourselves, to relieve fear, anxiety, to make us feel better. And the study is still out there, whether it's genetics, whether it's chemically induced, whether it's generational. There's a fine line for me to reaching for the external, and then all of a sudden, bam, once you cross that line, that need is something that's so great, for that drug or that behavior, that it consumes you and takes over. And at that point, most people aren't aware of what's happening. They're in denial. They blame others for it. They use justification for it. So we're leading ourselves into something that's culturally acceptable and even kind of pushes us towards. And for many of us, when we get to the other side of that, we're deep in addiction and we have no idea how we got there. That's a long answer for a short question.
That was a beautiful answer, because it is also a journey, like how we get there, and also finding our way through, because sometimes it is challenging situations that push us to seek numbness or just forgetting what had happened in our past, and we seek different ways to find that peace and find that moments that we can just be, and then we might get hooked into drugs or alcohol or whatever that is, and then finding back into the light, as to say, like finding a way to keep a connection with God, spirit, whatever you call it. And that's something you have now put into your very first book. So congratulations, as you have first published your first book, and this is your first ever interview. So
Yes.
can you share a little bit more about your book and what are the benefits that people can get from reading your book?
Sure. What I've found through the many different programs and educational experiences and workshops, whatever that I've gone through the last 11 years, which has been extremely extensive and a deep dive into spirituality and addiction and recovery. My book, I'll show you a quick look at the cover of it. Very simple because it's a practical guide. It's supposed to look very practical, and it is. What I did is I took a look at the commonality of everything that I've absorbed in the last 11 years, and I found that there's a key set of spiritual concepts, spiritual principles and practices that was a common thread among all those. And I wanted to bring some clarity to what those concepts, principles, and practices were. For me, when I started the recovery process, I was very reluctant to dive into it because, as I've told you before, I had just lost my life to something that I didn't understand. And to give my life over again now to spirituality or a program or a center that was spirituality based, and I didn't understand spirituality, I wasn't willing to give myself over again to something that I didn't understand. So I really had to take the time to understand the concepts and the practices and principles that are, in these programs and centers. So the guide that I wrote just explains them in very specific and generalized, specific but generalized terms in a way that they're clearly easy to understand definitions. And then I wrote with the principles and practices, how they actually help us. And I write very simply, 15, 20 different ways that each concept or principle helps us in a way that's easy to understand. And, a light bulb might come on and you'll think, oh, that's why that's helpful. Or, gee, I think I need to have that. Let me try this practice next. And then I break down ways that you can use them in a sustainable daily practice. So very practical, easy ways to use the concepts, principles, and practices. So these are all in 12-step programs, and everything else that I've gone through, it's, the guiding principles, guiding practices, guiding concepts.
Beautiful. So you mentioned that you have those key concepts there. So could we take an overview of maybe one of them or dive deeper in one of them so people get a little bit deeper here?
Sure. So I just actually did something on my social media about the concept of a higher self, which you'll hear in spirituality, but might be hard for some people to understand if they're haven't been involved with spirituality on a regular basis, or understand it in a way that means something to them. So the higher self, I've broken that down in the concept. What is it? And it's the part of ourselves that represents an understanding that transcends everyday consciousness and ego. It's the part that we, how can I put it better? It's the part of us that embraces our inner wisdom, our intuition, our spiritual insight. It's the part of us that acts as a compass towards our values and morals. It's the part of us that understands love and compassion and empathy towards others and the world around us. So understanding that we have a part of ourselves that is a higher self versus the lower self, which is anger and fear and anxiety and judgment and rage or whatever. So we can tap into that higher self, and the way that helps us is it helps us, some of the reasons why it helps us, understand self-compassion and love, which we definitely need to do in recovery because of the things that we're healing and growing from. The best way to take a look at all that is with self-compassion and love. Tapping into that higher self helps us, it gives us strength in challenges. It enhances resilience and inner peace in the face of obstacles. And it also gives us a deeper connection to something greater than ourselves, aiding us in our journey towards sobriety and well-being. So those are just three of the ways that working or understanding or moving into a higher self can help us in recovery. And then some of the ways that we can practice that is prayer or affirmations, trusting our intuition, journaling, writing down our feelings and thoughts and inspirations to gain clarity and receive messages from our higher self. These are just very simple ways that we can work with each of these concepts, principles, and practices. And this is just a small little snippet of what that's going to look like once you get into the book.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And I like also that you have those practical ways how people can start implementing these concepts if they want to practice, because that is so helpful. And love the definition, because I heard from your own journey, you were like, I don't want to really dive into if I don't know definitions. So most likely some others might have similar things, like they want a little bit more clarity before they can open up to spirituality. So I love what you have done here. And if you had one thing now, of course, getting your book and reading it would be one thing, but if you would have another thing to share with the audience about how to assist themselves when in recovery, what would you say to them?
Well, one thing I learned that I deeply embrace is that we all have the dignity of our own process. And there's not just one path. I would say to find what works for you, keep diving and digging into it, and allowing yourself to open and receive, and just to stay curious, actually. Stay curious about the process, find what works for you. If it doesn't work, find something else. There's no, like I said, no straight path, and there's so much out there. Just allow yourself to provide yourself everything you need. Just provide yourself everything you need.
Beautiful. And you've given us a lot to think about today. And I know your book is available for those who want to take what we have been talking here today and dive deeper. So can you share with people, where can they find it?
Sure. If you want further information on the book itself and a link to purchase it, you can go to susanchancebooks.com. And then my publisher has it for sale on their website, and that would be bookbaby.com. The name of the book is Spirituality Plus Recovery. And if you just put in the name of the book, the title, and or my name, it will pop up on their site if you decide to use that. And it's available in hardcover, softcover, and ebook.
Perfect. And I will put the links as well, so you can just check the show notes and get that book and maybe give it to a gift for somebody too. And now, as we are wrapping up, do you have a special final message that you would like to share?
Sure. The book is for anyone that's in recovery, whether, like we said, drugs, alcohol, codependency, self-harming behavior. It can be used by loved ones to better understand what it is that their significant other or son or daughter or whoever is going through when they're in recovery, and specifically 12-step programs, what is spirituality and how it's being shown in the concept of recovery. And also for those that are working with those in recovery, whether it's mental health professionals, sponsors, mentors, it gives a really nice range of ideas and suggestions and understandings that will help them and those in recovery that they're working with as well. So it's a great resource.
It surely is. So thank you so much, Susan, for sharing your valuable insights with us today. And if you found this helpful, please give it thumbs up and subscribe for this channel for more. And don't forget to check out our previous episodes too. So I'm sending you lots of light, lots of love, and bye for now.